The email from my mother sat in my inbox for 3 days before I opened it. Even then, I only clicked because the subject line mentioned Savannah's engagement party. Everything about it was perfectly on brand for the McCarthy family. Impersonal, demanding, and dripping with implied obligation. My name is Stella, and I'm the family disappointment. The black sheep. The one who just hasn't found her path yet at 28. At least, that's what my mother tells her country club friends between sips of overpriced champagne. "Darling," the email began, already setting my teeth on edge. "We need someone to handle the coat check at Savannah's engagement party. Since you're not bringing a +1, I thought you might appreciate being useful." I read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. Then I walked to my closet and pulled out the small wooden box I'd been preparing for months. Inside, sealed evidence bags waited patiently. I ran my fingers over each one, remembering the careful steps I'd taken to collect their contents. "Of course, Mother," I typed back. "I'd be happy to help." My phone rang almost immediately. "Oh, good. You're actually responding to emails now." My mother's voice crackled through the speaker. "The party starts at 7, but you'll need to arrive by 5 to get oriented with the coat check system." "Wouldn't want to mess that up," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Is Savannah excited?" "Beyond excited. Diego is absolutely perfect for her. Did you know his family owns half the waterfront properties downtown?" She paused, then added with practiced casualness, "You remember Diego, don't you? From that charity gala last year?" I remembered Diego all right. I remembered watching him slip away from that gala with someone who wasn't my sister. I remembered the hushed phone calls I'd overheard, the paper trail I'd followed, the pieces I'd collected like breadcrumbs. Vaguely, I lied. "Listen, Mum, I've got to run. Early meeting tomorrow." "Oh? Where are you working these days?" "Same place as last time you asked." "The tech startup? Going on 2 years now?" "Ah, yes, that computer thing. Well, don't be late on Saturday. And Stella, do try to dress appropriately. This is an important night for your sister." I ended the call and walked to my window, staring out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Gareth. "Heard Mum roped you into coat check duty. Guess being perpetually single has its uses." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder labelled Family Business. Inside were months of careful documentation, bank statements, phone records, surveillance photos, text message screenshots. My fingers hovered over Diego's file before clicking on Gareth's instead. My dear baby brother, always so quick to mock, so slow to cover his tracks. Another text buzzed through. "Don't forget to iron your servant uniform." I picked up one of the evidence bags, holding it to the light. "Oh, Gareth," I whispered, "you really should be more careful about what you keep in your coat pockets." My phone lit up again, this time with a wedding planning email from Savannah, mass sent to all bridesmaids. I wasn't on the list, of course. I was just the coat check girl. Walking back to my closet, I pulled out the dress I'd chosen for Saturday. Classic black, elegant, understated. Perfect for blending into the background. Perfect for someone nobody really looks at. I laid it out carefully, then returned to the box of evidence bags. Each one represented a different piece of the puzzle, a different card to play. I'd spent months collecting them, waiting for the right moment. Now my family had handed me the perfect opportunity on a silver platter. My laptop pinged with another email, this time from the venue manager Cassandra, with instructions for coat check procedures. I smiled as I noted the security camera locations she'd helpfully included in her diagram. "Showtime," I whispered, closing the box with a satisfying click. One final text came through as I was getting ready for bed. This one from my father. "Your mother tells me you're helping at the party. Try not to embarrass us this time." I thought about the last family event I'd attended, where they'd seated me at the kids' table because of space constraints. I thought about the trust fund they'd withheld for my own good. I thought about every subtle cut, every dismissive comment, every time they'd made me feel small. I typed back, "Don't worry, Dad, I won't let you down this time." And for once in my life, I meant exactly what I said. I arrived at exactly p.m., navigating through a maze of florists and caterers, setting up for my sister's perfect night. The venue was exactly what you'd expect. All crystal chandeliers and marble floors, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. "Stella!" My mother's voice cut through the chaos. She was wearing her event planning face, clipboard in hand. "You're actually on time! The coat check is in that corner. Cassandra will show you what to do." Before I could respond, Gareth sauntered over, already holding a glass of something expensive. "Looking professional, sis. Very service industry chic." I smiled tightly. "Nice to see you too, Gareth. How's the new business venture going?" He shifted slightly, his smirk faltering for just a second. "Fantastic. Unlike some people, I actually know how to make money." Cassandra appeared then, saving me from having to respond. She was exactly as I'd imagined from our emails, perfectly coiffed, perpetually stressed, and clearly annoyed at having to deal with the help. "Right, let me show you the system," she said, leading me to a makeshift coat check area. "Each guest gets a numbered ticket. You'll need to be extremely careful with the coats. We're expecting several designer pieces worth more than you make in a year." "I'll be very careful," I assured her, noting the security camera's blind spot behind the coat rack. The guests started arriving at 7 sharp. I took their coats with practiced efficiency, carefully noting who wore what. Gareth's Armani jacket, Diego's Burberry coat, my father's custom-tailored wool overcoat. "Stella?" A familiar voice made me look up. Emily stood there, looking exactly as she had in high school, except now she wore a detective's badge at her hip. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Coat check duty?" I said, holding out my hand for her jacket. "I didn't know you were invited." "Your sister and I reconnected recently," she said, studying my face. "It's been what, 5 years?" "Something like that." I handed her the ticket, our fingers brushing. "How's law enforcement treating you?" "Them interesting cases lately. You'd be surprised what people try to hide in their coat pockets." Our eyes met for a moment too long before she moved away. I watched her disappear into the crowd, remembering our last conversation 5 years ago. The promises we'd made, the secrets we'd kept. "Stella!" Savannah's voice pierced through my thoughts. She floated over in a cloud of white designer silk, Diego trailing behind her. "I can't believe you actually came, and you're actually helping." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, taking Diego's coat. He barely looked at me, too busy typing on his phone. I caught a glimpse of the message. "Meeting confirmed for tonight, 11 p.m. Savannah leaned in close, her perfect smile never wavering. "Just try not to make a scene this time, okay? This night is important." "When have I ever made a scene?" I asked innocently, carefully hanging Diego's coat. "Oh, please remember Christmas, that whole embarrassing speech about Dad's business practices." "Ancient history," I assured her, patting the coat pocket where I'd just slipped something extra. "Tonight's all about you." The party swirled on around me as I worked my corner. I watched my father nervously checking his phone every few minutes, saw Gareth slip outside for suspicious phone calls, noticed Diego's wandering eyes following one of the waitresses. My mother stopped by periodically to check on things, which really meant criticizing my technique. "You're hanging them too close together. These are expensive pieces, Stella. Try to show some care." "Yes, Mother." I adjusted the hangers precisely, making sure each coat had breathing room, making sure each planted item was secure. Around 10, Emily passed by again, this time with a glass of wine. "Quite a party," she said casually. "Lots of important people here tonight." I nodded, understanding her meaning. Important people with important things in their important coats. She took a sip of wine, then said quietly, "You know, I always wondered if you'd ever do something about them, after everything they did to you." "I'm just here to help with coats," I said, smoothing down Gareth's jacket sleeve. "Being useful, like Mother wanted." Emily's phone buzzed. She checked it, then gave me a long look. "Well, it's been good seeing you, Stella. I have a feeling this party is about to get very interesting." As she walked away, I heard Savannah's laugh ring out across the room. She was showing off her engagement ring to a group of admirers, Diego's arm around her waist. My father was closing a deal in the corner. Gareth was bragging about his latest investment. I checked my watch. 10:45 p.m. "One down," I whispered, patting the pocket where I'd slipped the first evidence bag. The night was still young, and I had plenty more coats to check. The Champagne Tower was a ridiculous 3-tier masterpiece that perfectly summed up my family's approach to life. Showy, excessive, and one wrong move from total collapse. I watched from my corner as Diego made his way toward it, phone pressed to his ear. "No, she doesn't suspect anything," he muttered, glancing around. He hadn't noticed me. Nobody ever did when I was working. "Just make sure everything's set for next week. Once we're married, the transfer will be simple." I pretended to reorganize hangers as he continued his conversation. "Look, I've got it under control. Savannah's got no idea about the offshore accounts or the other women." Right on cue, my sister's voice rang out across the room. "Diego, baby, come do the toast." He quickly ended his call and plastered on his signature smile. I watched him join Savannah at the Champagne Tower, noting how his hand lingered a bit too long when the waitress handed him his glass. "Everyone gather round," my mother called out, tapping her glass. "It's time for the engagement games." I suppressed a groan. Trust my mother to turn an engagement party into a competitive sport. "First up," she announced, "the couple's quiz. Everyone write down what you think the bride and groom will say." I kept working as the party played along, calling out answers and laughing. Through the crowd, I spotted Emily talking to one of the waiters, showing him something on her phone. He nodded and disappeared toward the kitchen. "Stella!" Savannah's voice made me jump. "You're not playing." "Someone has to watch the coats," I reminded her. She rolled her eyes. "God, you're so boring now. Remember when we were kids and you actually used to be fun before you got all weird about money and success?" "You mean before I started questioning where Dad's money came from?" "Here we go again," she sighed. "You know what your problem is? You're jealous. You always have been. I mean, look at you, still single, working some random tech job, living in that tiny apartment." "At least I know where my fiancé is at night," I said quietly. She blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" Before I could answer, Diego appeared behind her. "Everything okay here, babe?" "Fine," Savannah said, but her eyes stayed on me. "Stella's just being... Stella?" Diego barely glanced my way. "Come on, they're about to do the gift opening." I watched them walk away, noting how Diego's hand slipped into his pocket to check his phone again, right where I'd planted the second evidence bag. "Still alone, huh?" Savannah called over her shoulder. I smiled back. "Not for long." The party continued its carefully choreographed dance. My father held court near the bar, bragging about his latest development project. I'd overheard enough to know he was leaving out the part about the falsified environmental reports and the bribes to city officials. Gareth was working the room too, trying to drum up investors for his latest scheme. If only they knew about the shell companies and the missing funds from his last venture. Having fun? Emily appeared beside me again, this time without wine. "Thrilling," I said. "Nothing better than watching rich people play party games." She leaned against the coat check counter. "You know, it's interesting. We got an anonymous tip about some suspicious activities involving several people at this party." "Really?" I kept my face neutral. "How mysterious." Very. She studied me carefully. The timing is convenient. Everything happens for a reason, I said, adjusting Diego's coat slightly. The room erupted in cheers as Savannah opened another gift. Through the crowd, I saw my mother watching me, her eyes narrowed. She started making her way over, but was intercepted by Cassandra with some crisis about the dessert timing. You should circulate, I told Emily. People might wonder why you're talking to the coat check girl. She pushed off from the counter. Just be careful, Stella. Sometimes revenge has a way of backfiring. I'm not looking for revenge, I said. I'm looking for justice. As if to punctuate my point, Diego's phone buzzed loudly in his coat pocket. I knew exactly who was calling. The same person who'd been sending him increasingly panicked messages about missing funds and compromised accounts. The champagne tower caught the light, sending prismatic shadows across the floor. In less than an hour, those shadows would be replaced by flashing police lights. But for now, I stood in my corner, watching my family's perfect facade sparkle like the bubbles rising to the surface, each one carrying secrets ready to pop. More champagne, someone called out. I checked my watch again. Everything was right on schedule. The memory hit me like a slap as I watched Emily work the room. 5 years ago, we'd been sitting in her car outside my father's office, rain drumming on the roof. I'd just discovered he'd sabotaged my business loan applications by calling in favours at local banks. He can't keep getting away with this, I'd said, hands shaking. None of them can. Emily had reached over and squeezed my hand. If you ever need help making them pay, I got you. Now here we were, her badge glinting under the chandeliers as she casually chatted with guests, probably gathering preliminary statements without them even realising it. Stella, my father's voice yanked me back to the present. Why aren't these coats properly arranged? The Burberry should never touch polyester. Sorry, Dad, I said, rearranging them. How's the Richardson development going? His face tightened. That's not your concern. Really? Because I heard the EPA is very concerned about it. He grabbed my arm, pulling me behind the coat rack. Have you been looking into my business again? Let go of my arm. Listen to me very carefully, he hissed. I've been monitoring your accounts, your calls, your emails. One word from me, and that little tech startup of yours loses all its funding. I smiled. Funny you should mention monitoring. Did you know most phones automatically back up their text messages to the cloud? His grip loosened. What are you talking about? Nothing, just making conversation. Don't you have important people to schmooze? He stepped back, straightening his tie. Just remember your place. Oh, I know exactly where I stand, I said, patting his coat pocket where I'd planted the third evidence bag. Right here at the coat check. As he walked away, Gareth stumbled over, clearly drunk. Hey, sis, remember that time you tried to blame me for your DUI? You mean when you actually drove drunk and gave them my licence? Ancient history, he laughed. Besides, Dad took care of it. Yeah, he's good at taking care of things, like that investment money you lost last quarter. His smile vanished. What did you say? Nothing. Just wondering how those new investors would feel about your track record. You better watch yourself, he growled. You're not the only one who can dig up dirt. Difference is, I don't have anything to hide. A commotion near the entrance drew our attention. 2 uniformed officers had arrived, speaking quietly with Emily. She pointed them toward the service entrance, right on schedule. What are cops doing here? Gareth asked, suddenly nervous. Maybe someone called about the noise, I suggested innocently. My mother appeared looking flustered. Stella, why aren't you at your post? The Andersons just arrived and their furs need proper handling. Of course, Mother. Wouldn't want to disappoint anyone. She caught my tone. What's gotten into you tonight? Just thinking about Christmas. Remember when you told everyone I was between jobs, even though I'd just launched my company? Or when Savannah announced her engagement right after my breakup? Oh, Oh, don't be dramatic. We've always supported you. Really? Is that what you call freezing my trust fund? Or blacklisting me from family connections? We did that for your own good. You were making terrible decisions. No, I said quietly. I was making my own decisions. There's a difference. She opened her mouth to respond, but was interrupted by Cassandra rushing over. Mrs. McCarthy, we have a situation with the dessert course. As they hurried away, I saw Diego slip out onto the balcony, phone in hand again. Through the glass doors, I could see him arguing with someone, his face red. Emily passed by, giving me a subtle nod. The officers had disappeared into the service corridors, taking up their positions. My phone buzzed, a text from 5 years ago, saved and scheduled to deliver at exactly this moment. If you ever need help making them pay, I got you. I looked around the room one last time. My father nervously checking his phone. Gareth trying to charm potential investors. Savannah blissfully showing off her ring. My mother orchestrating her perfect party. They all thought they knew me, the quiet one, the disappointment, the black sheep who couldn't get her life together. They never imagined I could be anything else. Emily caught my eye across the room and touched her watch. Almost time. I straightened the coats one final time, making sure each planted item was exactly where it needed to be. In less than 30 minutes, everything would change. Time's up, I whispered, and turned back to greet the next guest with a perfect coat check smile. Diego took the stage for his speech, champagne glass raised high. My hands trembled slightly as I watched him, the first crack in my carefully maintained composure. When I first met Savannah, he began, I knew she was special, someone who understood the importance of family, tradition, and... He paused for effect. Discretion? I noticed my father checking his phone again, his face growing paler by the minute. The Richardson development deal must be unravelling faster than expected. To my beautiful fiancé, Diego continued, and to the McCarthy family for welcoming me with open arms. The crowd applauded. I caught Emily's eye across the room as she spoke quietly into her radio. Through the windows, I saw more police cars arriving, lights off. Stella! My mother's voice made me jump. Why is Detective Olsen here? Is she? I hadn't noticed. Don't play dumb. You two were inseparable in high school. Now she shows up at Savannah's engagement party. Before I could respond, Gareth rushed over, sweat beading on his forehead. Dad needs you, he told our mother. Something about the Richardson deal. Not now, she hissed. We're in the middle of Diego's speech. It's important, he insisted, pulling her away. I watched them huddle in the corner with my father, their faces growing increasingly concerned as they looked at his phone. The Richardson development wasn't just unravelling, it was exploding. Diego finished his speech and made his way to the bar, immediately pulling out his phone. I didn't need to see the screen to know what he was reading. News about suspicious transfers from his offshore accounts, flagged by financial authorities. Stella? Savannah appeared beside me, her perfect smile slightly strained. Have you seen Diego's phone? He left it in his coat. I haven't touched anything, I said truthfully. The evidence bag I'd planted would do all the touching necessary. She studied me for a moment. You're acting weird tonight, weirder than usual. Just doing my job, being useful, like Mom wanted. God, you're still bitter about that. When are you going to grow up and accept that some of us are just more successful than others? Success is relative, I said, watching Emily position herself near the main entrance. Sometimes it's about what you build, sometimes it's about what you expose. What's that supposed to mean? Ask Diego about his success, or better yet, ask him about last Tuesday night at the Harbour Hotel. Her face went white. How do you... Savannah! Our mother called out. Come here, darling. The Richardsons want a photo. I checked my watch as Savannah walked away. 10 minutes until everything fell into place. My father was pacing now, phone pressed to his ear. "What do you mean the permits were flagged? We followed all proper procedures." Gareth had disappeared entirely, probably trying to delete incriminating emails that were already safely backed up to my cloud storage. Diego was making his third anxious phone call in 5 minutes. Through the crowd, I could hear snippets. "Move the money now, I don't care how, before they freeze." My hands had stopped shaking. The moment was almost here, and a strange calm had settled over me. This wasn't just revenge. It was justice serving itself on a silver platter. "It's time," Emily said, suddenly beside me. "Are you ready?" I nodded. They did this to themselves. I just helped connect the dots. The evidence bags? All planted, one in Gareth's jacket about the embezzlement, one in Diego's coat proving the fraud, and one in Dad's pocket linking him to the Richardson bribes. She touched my arm gently. "Once this starts, there's no going back." "I crossed that line 5 years ago," I said, "when they destroyed my business, my relationships, my reputation. Tonight's just the bill coming due." Emily's radio crackled. "Units in position." Across the room, Cassandra was speaking urgently to security guards. My mother was trying to calm my father down. Savannah was following Diego, demanding answers about something on his phone. The champagne tower sparkled, each bubble rising to burst at the surface. Just like secrets, they always find their way up. "Now," Emily whispered into her radio. I stepped back into my coat check corner and watched as years of carefully constructed facades began to crumble. The night was about to get very interesting, and I had the best seat in the house. "I need to leave early," I announced to Cassandra, pressing my temples. "Migraine." She barely looked at me, too focused on her whispered conversation with security. Through the glass doors, I could see more police cars arriving, their lights still dark. "Fine, whatever," she said. "Just make sure all the coat tickets are in order before you—" A commotion near the entrance cut her off. The 2 uniformed officers from earlier had returned, this time with backup. Emily stood with them, her badge now prominently displayed. "Nobody leave the premises," she announced, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. "We need to speak with several individuals regarding an ongoing investigation." I began methodically returning coats, starting with the less important guests. My hands moved with practiced efficiency as chaos erupted around me. "This is outrageous," my father bellowed. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir," Emily replied calmly. "That's precisely why we're here." Gareth burst through the crowd, face flushed. "There's been a mistake. That's not my jacket. Someone must have—" "Sir, please step back," an officer warned him. "We'll need to see some identification." I handed Mrs. Anderson her fur coat, smiling apologetically. "So sorry for the disruption." The first scream came from near the bar. "This isn't mine!" Diego was holding up a small evidence bag that had fallen from his coat pocket. "Someone planted this. Savannah, baby, I can explain." My sister stood frozen, staring at her fiancé as officers approached him. "Diego, what's going on?" "Ma'am," one officer said to my mother, who was trying to hustle guests toward the exit. "Please remain inside. We need to speak with everyone." I continued working, calm and efficient, as my family's world imploded around me. My father was shouting about calling his lawyer. Gareth had gone pale, his phone clattering to the floor as an officer read him his rights. "Stella!" My mother grabbed my arm. "Did you know about this? Did you call them?" I gently removed her hand. "I'm just the coat check girl, remember?" Her eyes widened with sudden understanding. You planned this?" "Actually," Emily interrupted, "we've been investigating these individuals for months. Anonymous tips led us to evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and corruption. My phone started buzzing, first my mother, then Gareth, then Savannah, all trying to call at once. I silenced it without looking. "Stella!" Savannah's voice cut through the chaos. "What the hell did you do?" I handed another guest their coat, maintaining my professional smile. The police seemed to be handling everything. I should finish my job here. Diego was being led away in handcuffs, still protesting about offshore accounts and misunderstandings. My father had stopped shouting and now sat heavily in a chair, his face ashen as officers went through his coat pockets. "You'll regret this," my mother hissed at me. "You've destroyed this family." "No, Mother," I said quietly. "You did that yourselves. I just made sure everyone could see it." Gareth was next to be led out, his designer jacket now accessorized with steel bracelets. "This is a setup," he yelled. "Stella, tell them this isn't mine." I continued working, handing out coats with mechanical precision. The guests couldn't leave fast enough, practically snatching their tickets from my hands. "Miss," an officer approached me, "we'll need to speak with you as well." "Of course," I said. "Just let me finish my duties here. Wouldn't want anyone's expensive coats to get mixed up." Emily appeared at my side. "You don't seem surprised by any of this." "Should I be?" I asked, hanging up the last unclaimed coat, Savannah's white designer jacket, now witness to her perfect night's implosion. Through the windows, I could see camera crews arriving. Tomorrow's headlines were already writing themselves. Prominent developer arrested, society wedding cancelled amid fraud charges. "Stella," Savannah approached me, mascara running down her cheeks. Why would you do this to us? To me?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her, for the first time in years. Because someone had to, because actions have consequences, even for the McCarthy family. The last guests were being interviewed by police. My father was being escorted out. My mother had collapsed into tears, her perfect party in ruins around her. I handed Cassandra my coat check badge. "I believe my shift is over." As I walked toward the exit, my phone buzzed one final time, a text from my mother. "I hope you're satisfied." I stepped out into the cool night air, past the flashing police lights and gathering reporters. Behind me, years of secrets and lies were finally seeing the light. And yes, I was satisfied. But this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. 3 days after the engagement party, I sat in my apartment watching the news unfold on my laptop. The headlines kept coming, each one more devastating than the last. Tech startup fraud, society playboy arrested for embezzlement. Environmental scandal rocks real estate empire. Wedding called off, fiancé linked to international money laundering. My phone had been ringing non-stop. I'd turned it off after the 100th voicemail from my mother, each message oscillating between threats and tearful pleas. A knock at my door made me jump. Emily stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee and a thick file folder. "Thought you might need this," she said, handing me a cup. "It's been quite a week." I let her in, noting her official detective demeanour had returned. "Here to arrest me too?" "Actually, I'm here to thank you." She sat down, opening the folder. "Your evidence was the final piece we needed. But here's the thing, Stella. We were already investigating them." "What?" "B. Internal Affairs had flagged your father's developments months ago. The FBI was watching Diego's accounts. Even your brother's tech startup was under SEC investigation." She took a sip of coffee. "You just accelerated things." My hands shook slightly as I processed this. "So it wasn't just me." "You lit the match, but the kindling was already there. Karma just needed a little push." She pulled out some papers. "Want to see what we found?" The documents detailed everything. My father's systematic bribery of city officials, Gareth's elaborate Ponzi scheme, Diego's network of shell companies. But there was more, things even I hadn't known about. "Your mother knew everything," Emily said quietly. "She was actively helping cover it up." My laptop pinged with a new email from Savannah. "How could you do this to us?" "To me?" "Diego's lawyers say he might get 10 years. Dad's under house arrest. Gareth's assets are frozen. Are you happy now?" "She's not taking it well," I murmured. "None of them are. Your father's lawyers are in full damage control mode. Your brother's trying to cut a deal. Diego's already turning on his co-conspirators. Another email popped up, this one from my mother. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed this family. Don't ever contact us again. Emily touched my hand. You okay? I thought I'd feel different, more triumphant maybe. Revenge is complicated, she said. It doesn't always bring the closure we expect. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on briefly. A text from Gareth. They're offering me a deal. Tell them what you know or I'll drag you down with me. I showed it to Emily, who snorted. He's bluffing. We've thoroughly vetted you. You're clean. Unlike them, I actually built my business legally. I closed my laptop, tired of the headlines. What happens now? Now, the justice system does its job. Your father's facing multiple federal charges. Diego's looking at international financial crimes. Gareth's probably getting a few years minimum. And my mother? Obstruction of justice, at least. Maybe more as we dig deeper. I stood up and walked to my window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, my family was watching their carefully constructed world crumble. You know what's ironic, I said. All those years they spent calling me a failure, mocking my choices, undermining my efforts. And I'm the only one not facing criminal charges. Emily joined me at the window. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well. Is that what this is? Living well? You exposed corruption, stopped fraud, prevented more people from getting hurt? She shrugged. Sounds pretty good to me. My phone buzzed again. Savannah. The press is calling. What do I tell them? Tell them the truth, I texted back. For once. Emily gathered her files. I should go. We'll need you to testify eventually. I'll be ready. At the door, she paused. You know, 5 years ago, when I said I'd help you make them pay? I never imagined it would end like this. Neither did I admitted. I thought revenge would feel more satisfying. And does it? I thought about my family, not as they were now, but as they could have been, if they'd chosen honesty over greed, love over appearance, truth over deception. It feels necessary, I finally said, like lancing a wound. Emily nodded. The healing comes after. After she left, I stood in my quiet apartment, surrounded by the aftermath of my carefully orchestrated revenge. My phone kept buzzing with messages I wouldn't read, from family members I no longer knew. I'd lit the match, but karma had already stacked the kindling. Now all that was left was to watch it burn. And somehow, that felt like enough. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters as I made my way inside. My testimony had been scheduled for the morning, but I'd arrived early to avoid the media circus. Miss McCarthy, a young lawyer, approached me in the hallway. Your brother would like to speak with you before the proceedings. I followed her to a small conference room where Gareth sat in his orange jumpsuit, looking nothing like the cocky brother I remembered. You won, he said quietly as I sat down. Happy now? This isn't about winning, Gareth. Then what? Revenge? Justice? He leaned forward. You could still help me. Tell them I was manipulated by Dad, that I didn't know. Stop. I met his eyes. For once in your life, just tell the truth. He slumped back. The truth is, I knew what I was doing was wrong. We all did. We just never thought we'd get caught. Because you never thought I could catch you. No, he admitted. We didn't. You were just Stella, the quiet one, the failure. Funny how that worked out. A guard appeared at the door. Time? I stood to leave, but Gareth called after me. Savannah's getting married. I turned back. What? To some lawyer she met at Diego's bail hearing. She's keeping it quiet, small ceremony. He smiled bitterly. Guess she learned something from all this. In the courtroom, I watched my father refuse to meet my eyes as I testified about the environmental reports he'd falsified, the officials he'd bribed, the lives he'd endangered for profit. My mother sat in the gallery, her designer clothes replaced by something more subdued. She'd taken a plea deal, 18 months for obstruction of justice. When I finished testifying, she caught my arm as I passed. "I wrote you a letter," she said, from before, when you first started your company. I never sent it." "Why not?" "Because it said I was proud of you, that you were brave for going your own way." She released my arm. I was too proud to admit I was wrong. Outside the courthouse, Emily waited by her car. "Need a ride?" "Actually, I think I'll walk." She nodded, understanding. "The sentencing is next week. Your father's looking at 8 to 10 years. Gareth might get 5 with good behaviour." "And Diego?" "Fled the country. Interpol's handling that now." I started walking, letting my feet carry me through the city. I passed the building where my startup had begun, the one my father had tried to shut down. Now it employed 30 people and had just secured major venture capital funding. My phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. "I'm getting married tomorrow. Small ceremony. Just thought you should know." I typed back, "Congratulations. I hope you find what you're looking for." Near the waterfront, I passed a small thrift shop. In the window, a rack of coats caught my eye. Nothing designer, just ordinary coats for ordinary people trying to stay warm. I went inside and browsed the rack, running my fingers over the different materials. The shop owner watched me curiously. "Looking for anything specific?" "No," I said, picking up a simple black wool coat. "Just browsing." "That's a good one," she said. "Classic style, timeless." I tried it on. It fit perfectly. No pretense, no flash, just honest warmth. "I'll take it," I said. As I paid, my phone buzzed again. "Emily, final evidence filed today. Case closed." Outside, I put on my new coat and walked to the water's edge. The city sparkled in the fading light, honest and dishonest lives playing out behind every window. My phone buzzed one last time. An email from my mother's prison account. "I found the letter I told you about. Would you like to read it?" I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, "Yes, I would." The water lapped gently against the shore. Somewhere in the city, Savannah was preparing for a smaller, quieter wedding. Gareth was finally facing consequences. My father was learning what it meant to lose control. And me? I had a company to run, a life to live, a future unbound by family expectations or obligations. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and pulled my new coat tighter. It wasn't designer, it wasn't expensive, but it was mine, bought with honest money and chosen with clear eyes. Sometimes you have to work the coat check to finally check out, but once you do, you're free to choose your own coat, your own path, your own truth. I turned away from the water and headed home, leaving the weight of revenge behind with every step. The truth, it turns out, was the warmest coat of all.